YouTube. That was painful.
YouTube, why?
Yeah, no kidding. So, for those wondering, Pedro, as in Pedro from chat, has been doing all kinds of things as time has gone on, and has what I guess you could call, he has deemed Pedro's Little Red Book and or the Kitten Pill and or whatever it was that was a lot of words that I'm not typing. So, occasionally we stop and discuss these things. As to the art critiques, direct them to Pedro, not me.
How dare you? My art is perfect. I take no criticism whatsoever.
Yeah, that's pretty weak. Anyway, moving along. So the where are we beginning?
Right. I think we're gonna have to start with the boomers. They are horrible. They are the most entitled generation, minus the millennials and Gen Z. But granted, them being, let's say, less entitled than those two is not much of an accomplishment. They trust the institutions, and if you show them any source of media, then they'll just question it. And if it's not on the mainstream, they'll probably just say it's fake. So, honestly, I have just found the best way to move boomers is literally just read bills that the government puts out.
Usually, but herein is the problem, right? Because what you're talking about with that is well, are you a insert profession here, right? Well, what are you, a news commentator? And if you say yes, but not on MSNBC, then it doesn't matter that you're a news commentator, right? So you're running up against all of the usual things, and make no mistake, you will be asked the question that I am asked all of the time, which is, are you a lawyer? And no, I am not a lawyer. And then the implication of that, and sometimes what outright gets said to you later is, well then, why should I trust what you said about the law? Or why should I think that it works the way that it does, right? When you tell these people these things, right? It doesn't matter that my track record on things with laws and how they'll work is better than most lawyers' predictions. That doesn't matter. And it doesn't matter that lawyers who agree with you, well, he's just a partisan hack. So I'm not so sure that, reading law is useful for a lot of reasons. But if the intent here is simply to convince people who are going to appeal to authority at you all day long, there's a limit on how much you can ever get done.
Right. So here's how you do it, okay? So when you do this, you don't make it an argument, and preferably you also read bills out to them that sound more reasonable to the average person, so they don't think that you're trying to pull anything. That you're just interested in what's happening locally.
So,
and then every now and then, you read a bill of whatever ridiculous leftist nonsense that is happening. And you don't give them your opinion. You just you ask them, "Oh, hey, what do you think of this?"
I mean,
and also this lets you gauge where you can push them on.
Forgive me here, but who is this going to work with, right? Like, are we convincing our wives or something?
This is mostly with your family members. This is specifically.
You're going to have a lot of limited capability here, right?
Sure.
Because there's all kinds of stuff you could do if you had 500 hours with somebody, and
sure.
That's just not a thing for the majority of people.
Exactly.
It's equally speaking, you're going to run across a little bit here of I'm just going to end up arguing with my family about politics all the time, and the left's answer to this is, fine, then we hate you.
That's true. Yeah, it's This one just seems to be a thing of this seems to just work on honestly it just works on my dad, and I just think it's because he's my um basically, oh, I'm a radical moderate, enlightened centrist man.
Well,
So whatever I can convince him seems unreasonable, he just agrees with, and then it pushes him further right.
well, therein is. I mean, I've dealt with a lot of centrists on this channel, and as time has gone on, the real lesson of centrists is that they are ignorant, ridiculously ignorant, and they really hate everything that is, God forbid you ever say out loud a centrist is ignorant, because then they're like, oh my God, we're the most enlightened alt-centrist people of the world. We are not partisan hacks, and so we know all of the things. And you're like, yeah, well, did you know that thing that you're supporting, every single fact says that it's wrong? Here's where you get them. No, it's not from news sources. No, I don't read Fox News. This came straight from documented statistics. You can go read it yourself right over here. Oh, no, I didn't know that. Like, yeah, what a surprise. and by the way, dear centrist contingent of the audience, when I say that you're ignorant, it's not a pejorative. You just don't know things. And then you look at stuff and you say, well, the right wants X and the left wants Y, so the answer must be Z. Well, that's not an apolitical take on things. That is, just looking at what two people are complaining about and saying compromise, which, as the lie of compromise video so aptly demonstrates in about 6 minutes, just means move to the left, but a little bit slower.
Yep. Well, that's the thing. I kind of introduced your idea of compromise, and he was all like, "Oh, that's just trading horses." See, what compromise is you give the person who asks for something a little bit less of what they want.
Well, and
because we meet in the middle.
Good. So let's remove every piece of the federal government except that which was prescribed in the Constitution. I will break even with you can still have I don't know, something. I don't know what it would be that I'd be willing to let them have, but you can still have something.
But Don, that's unreasonable.
Right. Because, and again, this is all about moving to the left, so it's not really a surprise. And dear centrists everywhere, if you're listening to this and going, oh my God, that's just stupid, like, that you're being so unreasonable. Like, well, okay, let's socialize medicine that compromises the Affordable Care Act. When was the last time there was a big ask by the right that we compromised on that wasn't unreasonable? You guys, accept it. You are what conservatives get called, except you're driving 5 miles an hour above the speed limit instead of going light speed. That's just what it is. I wish it was not so, but it is.
Basically.
So,
God.
Again, by the way, ignorance is generally the issue here because, almost always it's, well, there should be, and my favorite pincushion is medicine. So, well, there should be socialized medicine, but there should also be a private option. Like, well, okay, all you're saying is there's good health care for the rich. That's what you're saying. Just deal with that. And there's complete garbage health care for everybody else. And then you get into arguments about whether or not it's garbage health care, and well, go look over here. You can find out very quickly that it is garbage health care, just no one wants to look. And then you get a lot of, why have I never heard this before kind of stuff. And, well, I don't know, man. Go argue with the NHS. They're the ones telling it to you.
Yep. Well, that's the thing. That's the thing, though, too. It seems to be the best way I find with, especially even kind of slightly left boomers. It depends, because my mom is like a social democrat, and I can just essentially push her on basically everything, and she just basically capitulates whenever I make any argument, which is really funny. For some reason, my neocon dad just seems to be way more stuck in his beliefs, so I have to chip away.
Well, welcome to parental relationship dynamics. I don't know what to tell you there.
Yep. Well, yeah, that's the thing. Is my really far left mom believes that systemic racism is bullshit, and my neocon dad thinks it's a thing. So it's really funny. So that's the weirdness. I guess it's really. I do think it's really funny how much easier it is to push lefties. I'm finding than pushing righties in any way.
Well,
I don't know. I don't know
so
why.
a lot of the Don obviously has a streaming addiction. He needs an intervention. No. Like, there's a very decent chance I'm taking the entirety of tomorrow off. But that said, so part of the reason that that I spend a lot of time on moving the more tacit lefty as opposed to more entrenched right-wing person is that, one, dear right-wing, you guys argue with each other all the time, right? That's what we do. You either know effective methods of moving the right on something or you don't. Usually it comes down to something in writing. Usually it comes down to some sort of factual description. This is a thing that all of you probably have thousands of hours of practice in and don't need my help. So,
Yep.
if you spend all of your time working on the things that I talk about, you're not going to move the right very far, ever, for any reason. But, look, if you want to move the right, then just go argue with them about facts. Right up until you find someone emotionally attached to their argument, that'll work. And when you find somebody emotionally attached to their argument on the right, it becomes like dealing with the left. That's just what it is. And, I see you, chat. Neoconism is Trotskyism is leftism. Yes. Look, you are correct. I've made this point hundreds of times on this channel, and I will probably do it again hundreds more. However, what you're dealing with when you find the emotional attachment to an argument is effectively a leftist. And so you kind of have to treat them like a leftist, right? Because the left is the same thing always. Think about the poor dying children with cancer. What is the factual scenario there? Oh, there literally is none, right? Oh, well, it will save money. Well, look, no, it really won't, because you won't get the same care. Now you're talking about a different product. I mean, is a Ferrari the same price as a Honda? No, obviously, and for good reason. And on and on and on it goes. So.
Yep. I mean, there is one kind of bright side, I guess, with neocons, which is that what I have found is on a lot of social and moral issues, they are way further to the right than a lot of Zoomer conservatives.
Yeah.
I showed Academic Agents, series on, old morality, and my dad just ate it up.
Yeah, I believe it.
So...
Well, neocons are, often as not, socialists that don't like blue-haired people. I mean, if outside of their Trotskyites, and they are, right? But as often as not, if you talk to them about things, their policy preferences are socialism, and their societal preferences are fairly conservative. So it's not really a surprise that sort of thing gets eaten up.
Exactly. Well, that's another thing too. Is here's the thing: is even with a lot of lefties, what I have found, and this is kind of going to go into the new strategy. There is a benefit to left-wing propaganda about the right.
Okay, shoot.
So, the left wing likes to lie about us constantly. To the point where left-wingers have a completely skewed and warped perception of what the right wing is like.
Yeah.
And because of that, when you propose a lot of policies, and you don't specifically call them right-wing, they eat them up, and they don't think it's conservative.
Yeah.
Because they have no idea what conservatives are.
Well, I mean that's always the way that it's been, right? This is the kind of thing where if you see this sort of thing with Pew, right? Because Pew does this all the time. They go down and they talk to ridiculously lefty communities, right? Districts that have voted like D plus 30. And they go, hey, would you like to be able to choose what school you put your kid in? Instead of just having to go to the one that's nearest to you. And the response is like 90% yes, right?
I mean, 60% of the adult population of the United States believes that all fertile people have a societal duty to reproduce.
And there it is, right? It's only when, I was talking to Ingrid like an hour ago, and it was, well, I agree with you on everything. Oh, you're a Republican, you're terrible, right?
Yep.
I mean, welcome to just the reality of the situation. And this is why I say things like we should propose policy that sounds good to the left, and then go forth and do it bipartisanly, right?
Yep.
Because then you get the left-wing name on board, and then it's not some right-wing policy. It's bipartisan policy, which gets all the centrists and the independents and the ridiculous people who think they're above everything because it's bipartisanship. The left's on board because if AOC signs on to something, the left is on board. And the reality is it needs to be something that works for the rest of us. And they have created such giant holes that we can do this. But if you have a bunch of Republicans propose it, they're still just going to oppose it because Republicans proposed it. That's it.
Exactly. Yep. Well, hey, I am a registered Democrat. Haha, neener.
Congratulations.
You can't accuse me of nothing.
Well,
No, yeah, it's good
and
now.
they will. They don't care, right? I mean, look,
It's true.
They.
Well, yeah, once they find out you're right wing,
I mean, go take a look at that stream from Fort Worth, and it's we got a Trump supporter. Nobody asked me anything. I said nothing. I was not wearing a Trump hat. I was dressed like I'm always dressed, right? Blue jeans, T-shirt, Indeed brown jacket, and was holding a cell phone. That was it. And it was that guy's a Trump supporter. That's all it took. And then a mob of 200 people were perfectly happy to turn around and be like, "Get the hell out of here. We're going to beat the hell out of you." They are a mob. And you can talk about them however you want. You can make the excuses, do whatever you want. I was a guy standing there with a camera, and that was enough the moment they decided I was a Trump supporter. So.
Yep. That's true. However, if you go, say, incognito, you're able to do a lot, and it's hilarious. Which is specifically where I pretended to be a Democrat. And campaigning for your my Democrat or whatever at like some rally or whatever, you can get a lot of insider information that way. But no one suspects you. It's hilarious.
You definitely can, but when I talk about the right is going to need to do things that they find distasteful, this is the kind of thing that I mean, right? Because look, the left is perfectly happy to lie to you straight to your face. They'll show up and try and get compromising things that you say, even if it has to be ridiculously out of context. The good people on both sides thing is probably the best example in the world of them taking things out of context. But the right does not do this very much. It's why O'Keefe is cherished so much by the right wing, and they don't care. It doesn't bother the right when he goes after like that guy in Texas. That fat broad was working for a Republican, and the right was perfectly happy to hear about it because for once, somebody was willing to go after the left at all. Period. And so if that gets rid of some, problem people on the right, some corruption, some voter fraud, whatever it is, then good, get that out. But, you're willing to go after Acorn. You're willing to go after Planned Parenthood. Finally, anybody, right? Because the right's just been beat on for the past century. And that's all they have is, getting beat on.
Basically. Yeah, that's going to probably be somewhat of a segue because I know some of the right just doesn't like to lie. So there are certain strategies I have where you don't even have to. But that's I guess somewhat of a different subject. This is again like part of the just how far you can just push a lefty if you don't even call your stuff right wing. Which is it's actually like ridiculous how far you can push. I think this was pretty clear with my literal Antifa cousin, where I'm just pushing him like on all of these ridiculously right wing things or whatever. Even though he knows that I'm right wing, which is hilarious. But yeah,
This is another thing that I have experienced with lefties over the years is if you have a good long-term relationship with a lefty that you didn't establish anywhere near politics, right? So, I don't know, you work on cars on Friday, which is not a particularly lefty thing to do, but we're going to use it as an example, right? You and a couple of your friends, guys in the neighborhood, whatever, get together and restore old cars or whatever. And you've been doing that for, I don't know, 5, 10 years, and then somehow, without politics coming up, and then somehow politics comes up, well, I think this, and this is why. The likelihood that that person is just going to scream racist at you is down dramatically, right? Because they know you, they have years and years of memories with you, et cetera, et cetera. And they start to have cognitive dissonance problems very quickly, where they know that the answer to what you're saying is to call you a racist, but they also know that you're not a racist, so they don't really know what to do.
yep.
And that, I mean, if the method here comes down to befriend someone for 15 years so that you can have a political conversation with them in 2035, I think we're going to need a little bit better better methodology here.
That is true. So, so this is kind of going to go into the strategy. So, basically, I call this the kitten pill, but then I was like, oh, that is cringe. I'll call it something else. And then I just came up with a bunch of other names. And it went on the title, so I'm just going to stick with it. So, cringe aside, here's the thing. Social media hates us. So, we can either just say, censorship, it's so bad, how dare they, I'm gonna keep being edgy, and post my memes and get banned like 17 million times, and not grow at all whatsoever, and complain that I am not growing. Or we can adapt. So, memes are good. We should probably do these on alt accounts. Unless your whole thing is trolling and you're like an expert at social media and you're just going to say, okay, Pedro, you're an idiot and I never get banned and I'm just the greatest memester. And to those people, I say, I surrender to you, sir. You are more smart than me. So keep doing what you're doing. Godspeed. All right. So those people aside, yeah, we're going to have to adapt. And a lot of people aren't going to like this. So basically, the tactic here is to essentially you do essentially what you're doing online in a way where if Twitter tried to censor you with an algorithm, they're just going to start ban hammering just boatloads of normies, and the normies aren't going to like it. So essentially, this is where you're cutting in here. So you're kind of like posting very conservative-ish ideas, but they're not. But you don't pose them as political, and you essentially go into like the boomer sphere, and you start posting boomer memes.
Well, so
and that is your little mask.
Everybody get Facebook accounts and then post the very repost the boomer memes that you see there all the time. Though this is the thing, right? So Dave the Distributist had a take on this that was pretty good. Make a non-political observation and make it a question, right?
Yes.
And that's if you want to be doing that sort of thing, that's basically how you have to do it. You could repost boomer memes all day, and what you're going to
that's
find...
more to get That's more to attract the boomers first.
Well, what you're going to find at the end is like you're reposting a thing about how Social Security is not socialism or an entitlement because somebody paid into it, and then God forbid you ask them which entitlement no one has paid into, because someone has paid into all of the entitlements. So.
Oh, well, I guess I have to rephrase this. You're not reposting political stuff that the boomer normies are posting, or even the Gen X normies. Basically, you're going for people who who don't seem to be necessarily political, and you start, it's going to be cringe, chat. You're not going to like this. They're going to be posting very cringy shit like minions, and you're just going to have to deal with it. We're going to have to bite the bullet.
Well,
and that's how you attract That's how you attract them, and then you do essentially part two. So this is both IRL and online, which is this is kind of an incorporation of some of the stuff that the basket weavers are doing, which is you're setting up non-political communities. And you're going to be setting up this kind of social group where you're doing a thing. And it is not a political thing, but it is going to be something that gives that kind of, essentially gets them to buy into conservative ideas. Oh, jeez. So it can't... sorry.
I was going over this morning, right? And this is the problem that the various basket weaver types of the world have, is that everything, and I mean everything, is political. Not to the right, not to about half of enlightened alt-centrists, but everything is political to the left. And it's not... Yep. It's not the other two that you have to worry about, right? That broad that went to a Trump rally and was all pissed off because her knitting circle got invaded by lunatic leftists, right? I mean, this is literally everything is political to these people. And you need to understand that, right? This idea that we're going to create apolitical spaces, what you are saying inherently is you are going to create conservative spaces. Sort of centrists caught on to this. Joe Rogan at some point was talking about, well, anywhere that doesn't have a bunch of moderation just gets filled with Nazis. Like, well, that's for a few reasons. One, you people consider everyone Nazis. Two, and I can't say this enough, the various actual neo-Nazi types are not very shy about what they have to say, right? They will tell you in 5 minutes what their political views are. They think fascism is a good idea, and they hate all these other things. And so, the reality of this is that everywhere you go and anything you do will become conservative insofar as it is not radically leftist, and the left knows this, and they are coming for it.
Yep. I needed to clarify the strategy. So specifically, there's a lot of things you can't do with this. So, this cannot be like an official club. No, don't make it. This has to be just seen as a thing that a group of friends or just like friendly acquaintances are doing. And you can't have this be a group probably larger than 5 people, because if you make it too large, then it requires a hierarchy, which then like a lefty will take over. So that's another one.
Well, it's not. It's not even about the hierarchy, right? So, part of the reason that the left comes after these big groups is that it is a lot of people, and so if the left can go into a thing of 500 people, even if they only convert 10% of them, that is more efficient than if they go to a group of 5 people and convert 100% of them. And the left knows this. In fact, everybody knows this. They know it intrinsically, just nobody says it out loud.
Yep. But that's another problem, which is also why the people who would be doing this, their group would not be public. And essentially what you do is you have essentially these little cells where there's one of you.
Does this tactic
and there's 3 people you're
Does this tactic come down to have friends? Because I mean that's basically what I'm hearing at this point.
Yes. Glorious. Yeah, but you're going to be having to make one, so, you know. Preferably you're making little groups.
Well, I mean, like,
But yeah.
so have a hobby that you do with more than one person. I mean, that for most of us, that's quite literally just have friends.
Oh, okay.
You know, I mean, like, why? Well, once you become a mean old man, that's what Friends is about, right? If you and your 5 friends that work on cars, you and your 5 friends that play pool, you and your 5 friends that do whatever you and your 5 friends do, right?
Yep. Yeah, granted though, a bunch of people don't have friends nowadays because society is bad now, because the left made it that way. But yeah.
Well, so this is why I is why I put out the tactics video. That's how to find like-minded people, because this sort of thing, the problem isn't that people don't want to have friends. The problem is, like, how do you go find people that you can be around who are not a bunch of screeching autistic leftists? And
Yep.
so, I mean, yes, it's the same point. It's just the how is really the question. It's not so much whether or not, there is no need to drive the right to go have communities. The right will go make them as long as they're allowed to have
Yep.
them. And
Exactly.
that's really the problem, is they're just not allowed to have them.
Yeah, which is kind of why if you're trying to do basket weaving things, I'd say the way to avoid it, avoid the problem of basically leftists, is you keep the groups small.
Well, I mean,
So they don't even know it's a thing.
well, presumably that's the point of the various basket weavers, right? Is that a handful of people will get together and do stuff. But, again, the question here is, what is the objective? Because, look, if the objective is to make the right not feel quite so lonely, then this is relevant and important. Go have friends, go have hobbies, go have things you do.
Yeah.
But if if the objective is to get something realistic done, then, I mean, yeah, it's good, again, if we're trying to push the culture somewhere, if we're right on back to the Andrew Breitbart game. All of this is good. But it ain't working, right?
That's true. Yep. Which is also another one, which is start infiltrating, guys. We need to get information. So, like, if you're in a blue state, just pretend to be a Democrat. And start trying to work for government people.
Yet again, we're dealing with things that the right doesn't do very well, right?
That's true.
The right wing tends to be relatively honest. Not to mention, God forbid you, I don't know, have an American, like, literally just own an American flag. That's it. You're right wing, unless you're buying it and taking it somewhere to light it on fire, and then that's okay. But if you have an American flag on your front door, you're a far right-wing extremist. If you, God forbid, you have a Trump sticker, a Pence sticker, you ever said you voted for George Bush, whatever it is, doesn't matter. You're a far right-wing lunatic. And so,
Yep.
This is the problem, is you would need to have an entire life and lifestyle that the left finds acceptable. And that is much less doable than anything else. And for those of you who are like, well, I'll just only behave like this at work, understand that the left goes out and does degenerate shit after work. That's how this goes. Like, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna go to the bar and, like, troll for 21 and a day-year-old ass. And you're like, well, I've been married for 10 years. And they're like, ha, what are you, some kind of conservative? Bam, you're outed.
Well, what you do there is you just give excuses that the left is sympathetic to, like, oh, you see, like, oh, it's bad for my health, I have to trust what my doctor says. Oh, okay, bro.
I mean,
that's the easy way out, because my experts say you can't do a degenerate thing.
I get the feeling you have not tried this in long form. Mostly they just hassle you over and over and over again with this, right?
Okay.
So,
I have not met California leftists, unfortunately.
I have, and lots of them. So, You know, again, if you want to be infiltrating something, you're dedicating a pretty substantial portion of your life to it. And this is really the problem the right has, is the right doesn't have people who are dedicating substantial portions of their life to things.
Yep.
And the left does, right? You know, they have people who will go to right-wing institutions to learn things, to get intel on the right-wing institution. And the left just, they have this, they're better at it, they've been doing it for years. And we would basically have to start like raising a generation of people who this is what they were going to do. And you know, who on the right is out there saying, I want to have children so that I can teach my children to infiltrate the left so that they can live this life of misery so that the rest of us might be okay. Like, find me that person on the right, because I don't think they exist.
No, they probably don't. And, yeah, so, I would say there is one thing, though, that I have found that is kind of hilarious, and this is even in colleges, where basically I remember pulling this in an English class, and the teacher was very far left, and essentially, you know, our whole thing is we were supposed to analyze fairy tales, and a lot of them were old fairy tales. So then what I decided to do was you know, go in like this. Right. So in order to understand these fairy tales, we must understand the societal and cultural, socioeconomic factors that they were at the time, and a lot of that was Christianity. So now here's my stump speech about all the Christian values that are in this, that are from this fairy tale. The Christian moral that is from this, and I won't make a thing one way or the other. And then the lefty professor is like, "Oh, that's absolutely brilliant, amazing." And then, yeah, it's actually kind of funny because this literally happened.
I appreciate the what is it, permeation of this, but understand that is what you're doing, right? So for you know, you're not going to convince most of those people. Once again, back to this is a long fight, right? And so, if you talk about Christian things in any realistic and open sense, the left will just hate you. But if you can contextually get any sort of conservative idea into any conversation of any variety, it's probably more exposure than the left has ever had to right-wing ideas.
Yep. Well, that was the thing, because it's I was using language that like the left was all about. And by the way, that wasn't even my intention to do any of that. This was before I was more politically active. But it was basically very honest. But essentially, it was just, oh yeah, this is just the context of how this was. So we just have to understand how these ancient people thought back then when they made this fairy tale. But yeah, and I also had the other defense was just, oh well, I'm Jewish.
Well, I don't think that's going to work for the vast majority of us.
Well, yeah, no, I know, but that was the thing. It was well, it's not going to work for me much longer anyway. But basically, what happened is after class, one person asked me if I was a Christian. I was like, oh no, I'm Jewish. Therefore, this is even less political.
Prime example, I don't think I could ever make that sell, right? Well, and look, I'm probably a bad example because I run this YouTube channel, but if I wasn't running this YouTube channel and was trying to do this, that is, if that is the out, then you're going to have to be willing to say that for some reason, regardless of everything else going on in life, which means you had better never wear a cross to work, right? Or wherever it is that you engage these people.
Oh yeah. Well, yeah. If you have a cross, that means you're right wing, unless you're a black person or a Hispanic.
Yeah, entirely. So,
which is why if you're a Christian right winger, this is your foot in the door.
Well,
Go to the Hispanic people and the black people who are Christians and Democrats.
And therein is the problem, right? Because it's not. That's been the right wing's argument since the beginning of time. Go back 10 years and listen to Larry Elder, right? I don't understand why black people vote Democrat. They're very religious. They're pro-life. They believe in hard work. They don't believe in, blah, 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 on and on and on and on forever. And guess what? It doesn't work. It doesn't.
No.
And it doesn't matter. We can reframe it from now till the end of time. This is another one of those things where the left should have ended in 1975 if this worked.
Yeah. So no, that wasn't a. This isn't the what is it? The foot in the door for trying to suddenly convince them to to be Republican. It's more a foot in the door if essentially you want to have openly conservative ideas. And still basically function in a left-wing state, essentially.
So, not herein lies the problem, right? You can only ever sort of have right-wing ideas in a left-wing state, because, again, the left has politicized all of this. If you say that hard work should be rewarded, they'll quite literally come to you and say ridiculous things like, well, does that mean that Deshaun shouldn't get promoted? Like, I don't know. Is he a crap worker? Oh, it's because you're racist. And you end up in pretty standard conservative, traps for right-wing people very, very quickly.
Oh, the counter to that is, are you saying that union workers do not deserve higher wages for the products of their labor? How dare you?
Yeah.
Is you basically you make a left-wing argument and make it scoldingly and then shame them, and then you keep saying right-wing things. But that's one that I found is hilariously effective. Is you say things that are, vaguely conservative, but you state them as apolitically, and then if the left, if you push a little too right and the left notices something is kind of right-wing enough, they'll start attacking, and then you just viciously attack them on like a left-wing thing, essentially. And you're like morally shaming them for not being left enough. And then you just keep spouting right-wing shit more and more.
Well, and I mean, you can, or at least you can try, but when you are dealing with people who very quickly just boil down to you're a racist, right? Like, so once you get away from people you have personal, what do I want to call it, personal relationships with, you're going to end up having big problems with this because they'll just call you a racist, right?
That's
and
true.
The big problem with this is not so much whether or not you individually have a decent relationship with one other individual that's there. Once you have one person who isn't someone that you have a good relationship with, they will just call you a racist, and then that's when the mob turns on you, right?
Yep. Well, here's the thing, though, too, because I am in college right now, so I'm in the belly of the beast, as it were. Basically, most of the students are like default leftists. There are like very few activists, even where I've been. Like, I've been in like sociology class, and I can just go ridiculously right wing without even saying that I'm right wing, and just everyone buys the stuff. Well, also partially because it was a night class, so it was full of minorities. So there was that. But yeah, like it might be different in California, but I don't know. Like Massachusetts seems to produce these ridiculously activist, crazy lefty politicians. But from the campuses I've seen, It's basically some of the professors seem to be socialists, and basically all of the student body are a bunch of normies.
Well,
And you
yeah,
can go really far right without even calling yourself a Republican or conservative,
that's
and they
that's
generally
always
don't notice
that's always
and
how
then
it
buy
is,
into your
though,
shit.
right? So
Yeah.
you're dealing with. This is why what Lenin had to say about this is so important, right? Without leadership, the proletariat gives up the revolution because they get bored.
Yep.
And so you see this play out in sort of a microcosm in college, right? So most of these people have just shown up after a dozen years of leftist indoctrination. They're just ish lefties. They don't really, they don't have hard ideas or anything like that. And then the professors that are managing the revolution find the ones that are excited and promote them and make them bigger and more than they were yesterday. And then they
Yep.
use the minority to manage the mob of the rest, right? Like, so you get whoever the handful of activists are of college age going out like, yeah, man, so like all these terrible fash people are gonna be there, and so like we're gonna go do stuff, and like even the professors are gonna like show up and support us, man. And that's it. People show up, and no, it's not the whole college. No, it's probably not even a majority, but it's a few
No.
hundred, and that's enough.
Yep. Yep. Yeah, like the bigger college I went to seemed to have more socialists in there. They they seem to be basically very let's just say very dumb, but
Well,
basically we would just sit at the table or whatever. So and I would just give them facts, and then they would just be like, "Oh, but like socialism will work, guys."
well,
So
and therein is going to be the difference, right? Because if you want to be out there doing right wing activisty things, you're going to have much better success in a community college than you are in a major university. And the sole reason
yeah,
for
no.
that is that people who have lived harder lives are in community colleges than those who are in major universities, and that's just it, right? So
Yep. Exactly.
it's not by accident that it's the bourgeoisie that likes socialism. you know
Well, because they think that under socialism everyone's going to live like they are,
well, yeah, right.
basically.
And for
Yep.
the people who have at any point at some point in my life, many, many years ago, my roommate and I, that had been friends for a very long time, went to the dollar store with the change that we collected out of our cars and, made dinner for 2 days off of $3. And if you have done that, what you know is that you don't want to be in the position where you're pooling money so that everybody can have something to eat. You want to be in a position where you could just go buy your own food, right? And this is not a thing that the bourgeoisie of the world ever learns. They don't have the hardship. They don't, they don't become people who are willing to really put out for their own. So they think that socialism sounds great because they didn't have to work hard, so nobody's working hard. Because again, the first way you relate to other people is how you see yourself. And so these people are crazy, spoiled children, and that's how they expect everything else should work. Yeah. It's funny because you can see this when commies write about the working class, as it were. And the best example I can think of it right now is Chernobyl, right? The TV show about Chernobyl from HBO. And go watch the scenes where they're introducing themselves to the miners, right? And not children, as people who dig in the ground, kind of miners. And they're all cracking jokes about communism and how it sucks, and communist machines on how they suck, and there's no BS, and everyone's very straightforward. And then listen to all of the people that run these white collar jobs in Soviet Russia, and that's not how any of them are. It's all the same thing, no matter where you go throughout time.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah, that's the thing too, is one of the things that I've seen is the professors at the community colleges are way to the right of the professors of the big universities.
Well, yeah. So big universities is where they're minting Marxist doctrine and propaganda. Community colleges are, as often as not, nothing like that, right? Maybe they have one professor that they get from the major university to come teach at their college one night a week. But the rest of them, if you go to a community college, you'll find a lot of people where, I only teach nights because I run my business in the morning. That guy is always going to be to the right of, ridiculous lunatic professor at major university that
Yep.
makes six figures.
Yeah. Well, again, like community college is look, this is just my experience, but community college is where you'll have a sociology professor who makes fun of communism.
Yeah. That is at least possible there. It's not in universities. It's not a thing that you are likely to find at all.
Yep. Yeah, one of the things you'll basically find at like big universities is this weird fetishization of like African culture, and it's really weird, but also kind of hilarious.
Well, here, I don't know.
It's like it's literally like 1800s noble savage.
Well, yeah. So this is welcome to the shtick, right? It's destroy civilization. It's why a lot of people who just hate humanity end up Marxist, because somehow or another the Marxists always end up thinking it's a good idea to destroy all of civilization. That said, we got anything else that we're working with here?
Not really. Most of my new strategies were kind of dumb or whatever. So I'm gonna have to rework stuff.
F. So,
Hey, I thought they were good on paper. I thought I was a genius, but no, I'm not.
So did Marx. No, I'm just breaking your balls. So, that's actually a thing that's worth stopping on for a minute, right? And I said stopping, not stomping, relevantly speaking. Somebody asked me a while ago, would you be willing to hear from X, Y, or Z person that had some ideas on how to fight the left? And my answer, I think I need to say out loud more often, which is, if an aardvark has an idea about how to beat the left, I want to hear it. And if it's good, I want to put it into action. So make no mistake, as much as I will be critical of basically anything brought to me, because if we have already done it before and it's not working, I'm not very interested in doing more of that. And I get the distinct impression I've spent a lot more time on what the right has been doing over the years than most people. So, by all means, if you have an idea and you're sitting there and you listen to this, like, man, because I see it in chat already, pwned by Dawn. That'll happen to you. I
am very happy to be pwned, because that means I'm not gonna have to waste time doing these dipshit strategies and failing.
And that's sort of the thing, right? If you're listening to this and you're like, man, I don't have the balls to go sit up there and fucking have Dawn run me through a meat grinder for an hour, don't worry about it. Is shoot me the shit in an email or something. We'll figure it out. I'd like to think, critical or otherwise, I'm at least courteous most of the time.
Hey, I mean, you can send your ideas to me, and I'll just pretend that I came up with them.
By all means, do that. Create the funnel of ideas, as it were.
Exactly.
So look.
So, Chad, are you up for it? Make Pedro the punching bag of dipshit ideas.
Make Pedro autistic again.
I mean, I'm all for spurging.
Exactly. And so, look, if you think you are sitting on a brilliant idea and you're like, man, I don't want to see Don just go stomp on it, look, send it over. Send it however you want. Send it by carrier pigeon. I try to be really reachable. I realize that I now send people to a scheduler if you want to schedule a stream, but I will sit through plenty of conversation right up until it is, all right, so when do you want to have a stream? And I'm like, please just talk to this guy. Because part of why I'm doing that is that conversation I'm having with you, it takes time when I can't be scheduling things. So, and when I am scheduling things, I can't be having that conversation with somebody else that is trying to have it. So, look, I try to be reachable, but by all means, please use the scheduler. And yes, the answer to, I think, everyone has been, as long as there's some time where we can actually be online at the same time, yes, there could be a stream scheduled. So, denials are, I think the list is still at 0. That said, there is indeed some super chat things I should take care of. One is
Let's do it.
Craig, £10, no message. Thank you, Craig. And then I've been trying to remember your name the whole stream, but it starts with an N, and I am still garbage. But I'm going to call you Nissa from now on. And yes, that's a Doctor Who reference. I say that right up until I forget the next time. But for $4.99, I'm more incensed about the obvious mob rule, however, not in the least surprised. Yeah, I don't blame you. It's the far side of wisdom of crowds thing, right? Oh, people, when people get together and they make a decision, it's a better decision. Like, well, lynch mob said the same thing. I'm not so sure that's really the road we want to go down.
Wait, Don, are you saying we shouldn't have based right-wing lynch mobs?
Well, I certainly cannot advocate violence for any reason. That's all that I'm saying.
I agree. We should not have any violence whatsoever.
Sure. Let's do that. Chat, do me a favor, keep the spelling bees in spicy chat. I don't mind them there, but don't get me kicked off YouTube. That's all I'm saying. Speaking of that, Chernobyl wasn't an ad for communism, was it? Yes, it was. Go listen to the people who made it. They thought it was all about how human nature was terrible and communism didn't do nothing, was a good boy.
Oh, God.
Chat is not the place for spelling bees. Makes Susan very angry. Correct. And if Susan angry, then no show. So, welcome to the party.
We love you, Susan. Please don't look at us. We didn't do nothing.
Right.
We're good boys.
Anyway, that all said, anything else before we get on out of here?
I'll come up with more dumb ideas. It'll be great.
By all means, carry on. Which, again,
I'll
by the
push
way,
Sargon.
part of the reality of this is that this has to be, again, whatever you think of Edison, I don't really care. It needs to be the Edison idea, right? We're going to sift through 10,000 ideas that aren't going to work, and that's just the way it is, right? So I don't mind. By all means, keep doing it. Because if we get through, whatever it is, the sales pitch, oh, Edison found 10,000 ways not to invent a light bulb. Well, if we come up with 10,000 ideas to defeat the left and only one of them works, we still defeated the left,
Exactly. We're going to be an organic algorithm.
So
that just keeps trial and erroring until it gets the perfect code.
You got
it.
And
then no one can beat it.
All right. Well, I think that is a good time to clear this out. I should figure out where it is that the stream is actually at. All right. Thank you, everybody, for watching. And remember, fight the progressives wherever you find them, and fight them like your life depends on it. Because it does.